All right, so UWM and cross country are dragging Two Harbors stockholders into a bidding war with the May 19th vote in sight. Robert Refkin built a 90-minute federal case at the T3 summit to gut MLS rules. HUD told NAR its decades old crime and school advice was misguided in writing, and the 30-year fixed jumped to 6.31% on Friday off Iran driven oil pressure. So we've got 6 fresh stories. Buckle up. I'm Sandi Lyn Burnett, and I scaled a nationally expanding brokerage, 7 states in 7 months after I was tired of seeing agents settling for the status quo.
I'm Josh Ries. I'm an Inman contributor, lead generation consultant, and I met Sandi Lyn because her business partner threatened to burn my house down if I didn't join their brokerage.
And again, missing today is producer Brian, who I'm sure will be heckling us in some comments. He is getting his MacBook together and he'll be joining us tomorrow. Very excited. We're going to have a special guest tomorrow as well, discussing the, I'm never not going to call it the ReMax acquisition. I just can't believe they didn't do that. I can't believe they didn't call it that. Like, I get why they didn't, because it's obviously they bought the brand. But come on, Josh.
I want to know if they're going to continue with the balloon at all, or is the balloon just going to get sunset?
I bet they'll continue. I would continue with the balloon.
I think they should go back to the old balloon though, because the new one looks like a Pepsi symbol. I think they need to go back to the old balloon that actually meant ReMax.
Agreed. Now here's something that I really don't care about, but for some reason, this news item keeps getting put in front of me. So I feel like it's my duty to kind of put it in front of you. Josh, I don't think we need to spend this much time on it, but like maybe you can tell me like maybe why it's a big deal, but what's the deal with UWM Holdings? They filed an open letter to Two Harbors stockholders detailing a competing offer of $12 per share or 2.3328 shares of UWM common stock. Cross Country Mortgage countered hours later with an amended merger price of $11.30 per share cash and a redemption of Two Harbors preferred stock at $25 plus accrued dividends. Two Harbors shareholder vote is scheduled May 19th. Both deals would close in the second half, or 2H, of 2026. Twist. Two Harbors is an MREIT with the Round Point mortgage, and I'll tell you what MREIT is because I had to look it up, guys, is an MREIT with the Round Point mortgage subsidiary attached. Whoever wins lands MSR exposure and a servicing platform. Cross Country argues an all-cash structure carries less integration risk. UWM argues its stock option gives shareholders upside if rates compress and originations recover. Both bids land in the middle of a treasury volatility spike driven by Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so when I looked up, where is it? Where are my, I'm like, old lady, where are my acronyms?
You need your reader ready.
I know, right? Okay, MREIT is the Mortgage Real Estate Investment Trust. Did you know that, Josh, off the top of your head?
I think maybe I've heard that before.
But I didn't off the top of my head. So like, this has been in the news daily, like on Inman for the past week or two, but I just don't give a shit. But like, it just is constantly being.
I think personally, it's more or less the fact it's just showing a trend within the industry where we have a lot of these bigger companies that are out actively looking to acquire smaller companies and pick up market share, which I think is interesting because, we've taught real estate agents for years, like in a down market is when you put your foot on the gas and you pick up market share, when things are slow, because that's when a lot of agents kind of fall off. The interesting thing is now we've seen at like a C-suite level, those guys have decided to do the same thing. Like the market slowed. How can we acquire more business? And so far, it seems like everybody just like, we're going to start buying smaller companies, taking them over. And I think it's interesting because I think we're seeing a consolidation within the industry, which in some ways I think is a good thing because I think it's thinning the herd out a little bit, especially, those underperforming companies.
It's
Companies
almost like the trash taking itself out type thing.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent what we're seeing is, self-correction within the market. The interesting thing, and I see this too on the real estate side, I'm sure mortgage is the same way. I think it really depends on who acquires and what their intention is with the acquisition. Because I could see like, for example, the ReMax Real transition, what is Real's actual intention with that? If they have good intentions, I think it could be good for all parties. But if their intention is like, hey, we're going to leverage the crap out of them and then just basically dump all the ReMax stuff, might not be good for all parties involved.
Well,
so I think it's interesting.
I mean, and it's also like define good intentions or bad intentions. Of course, they're acquiring the company for their own gain. It's not like they're in the charity industry like, oh, we're gonna like pay you this bailout money and then keep everything as is and like tie a sweet little bow around it. Of course it's for their own gain,
Yeah. Well, and I think just a teaser for tomorrow, I think that's really interesting with our guest that I want to talk about is he was with ReMax for a long, long time. And I've been following him on social media for a long time. And I was always like questioning, like, you have a big following, you do great business, but he stuck with ReMax for a really long time. And I don't know if that was out of loyalty or whatever, because let's face it, we all kind of know there's other options out there now that have better tech and all those type of things. He recently made that jump before the acquisition happened. So I'm really curious to hear his take on that. But I think really what we're seeing is I think this is going to kind of be the new norm in the industry for a while, where we have a lot of these larger companies that are going to try to pick up market share by acquisition, which I don't think is a bad thing. But I think it can also go sideways very quickly. And I think it's that fine line between allowing the consumer to have better options and allowing the consumer to have no options.
I'm looking forward to gaining his perspective as well. Do you know how he gained like his followers, by the way? Do you remember at all what he did? He like made a promise to himself that he was going to post a video every single day.
Yeah. And I think now he's on like
something days in a row, and then he like finally skipped one or whatever. And then the other thing that I found really endearing was he, would do that board. I'm going to sell 100 homes this year, and every Friday he would put pictures of the homes that he sold. And I think that there's something to be said about, I guess, making yourself accountable to the masses and then keeping yourself accountable to the masses. It's like one thing to say something, or I have a goal, or I have a dream about this, but it's a whole other thing to continuously hold yourself accountable. So I just thought that was something I respected, and that's why I followed him and continue to follow him. But I agree with you. I can't believe that he stayed with ReMax as long as he did. Like in a world where, I mean, a lot of people with a following like that really aren't, they go over to the MLM brokerages because they know how to leverage a following, right?
Yeah.
So he just went to Real, I think like last fall or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm like very excited just to hear his perspective on it, and like did he miss ReMax? Is he excited for this? Or is he annoyed about this? Is he annoyed because he just switched his branding? Or like, is everybody gonna, what colors is Real gonna use? Like, what are they gonna do? So and maybe they don't know yet, but I bet Real knows more than ReMax does.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I think this has probably been in the works for a long, long time. Um,
but I bet agents at Real are being told more than ReMax is.
yeah. I talked to a real agent, uh, and they're like very limited info has come out down on really what this is going to look like for them. And I
I
think part of it is it's
depends
new.
on how big of a recruiter you are.
Yeah, that's probably true. But I also think it's interesting too to see this one because this was released so early. I think we're going to get a lot more government scrutiny on this acquisition than like the Anywhere Compass acquisition. So that will be interesting as
Well, and
well.
it's like, will there be? Because I would literally be like, but that guy got away with it, and you didn't have a problem with it then, and they have way more agents. So,
I think the one thing we're going to see with this is talking. I know Elizabeth Warren came out after the Anywhere Compass merger publicly and was very, very upset that Congress didn't know about it. And which to me was funny because I have no doubt in my mind that that was done on purpose, that they put the smoke and mirrors up and had
who's
everybody
gonna
looking
go
elsewhere.
tell on themselves to Congress?
Well, yeah.
No
So,
fucking shit. Congress didn't know about it.
but here, the thing about it is,
Did
I
she
think.
want to go fucking sell some stock early or something? Shut up, Elizabeth.
Yeah, well, but I think it's very telling too because I think there were a lot of people in Congress that had egg on their face for not knowing what was going on with this. And so now I almost think that by proxy, this one's going to get a lot more scrutiny, even though
Yeah.
it's a much smaller deal. It's nowhere near the size of the Compass deal. But I think they're going to be like, well, we got egg on our face, so now we got to be real. I think ReMax and Real are going to get put through the ringer, which is funny because it's not really their fault.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it will be interesting to see
To
how
get
this one goes.
that much earlier, before finalizing the deal, because they know this is going to come under a lot of scrutiny. So they want to make sure that, like, it goes through all those channels so that they can finalize it in the second half.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that could very well be it. So, all right, what's our second story here? Okay, let's talk about. I wrote a LinkedIn article about this last week. Um, so HUD wrote agents directly accusing NAR of misguided advice on the crime and schools steering question. NAR responded with a blog post defending its decades old guidance and disputing HUD's professional gag order framing. A companion HUD USDA action April 28th rescinded the Biden era 2021 IECC building code mandate. NAHB, and I have all these acronyms if we want to get into it, but allegedly said the mandate had roughly $20,000 to the cost of new home construction. So that's like two different things. I want to talk about that whole like gag order. I love how they basically did call it a gag order. Like, so let's talk about that side of things. So at our company meeting last Thursday, Holly, the co-founder of my real estate company, what she did to set the tone was she played last year's HUD video, and then she played this year's HUD video, and it's same guy, Secretary of HUD, and a completely different message. And he had a fire lit under him and was definitely calling out NAR. I, for one, appreciated it. I, for one, I, I'm gonna like steal probably some of your opinion of what you and I have talked about offline, but I do believe that NAR has been lazy that they have been protecting themselves in not properly training the agents, so they can say, well, we never outright did tell the agents to say nothing, but they never taught us how to actually give the right information to our clients, which was their responsibility.
Well, and I think another thing about this too, from my perspective, and I've only been in real estate about 10 years, so take it for what it's worth. I think this is the first time in my real estate tenure where the federal government has come out and very clearly said NAR is wrong. And up until this point, the federal government has pretty much just gone along with NAR and been like, you know what, you guys are right. We're not even going to worry about it. And I think what we're starting to see is NAR really lose the control that they've had for a long time. And I think that starts with, the whole government basically going against them and saying, no, you're wrong. I've never seen that happen since I've been in real estate. And I think that's going to cause a lot of change too. I agree with this change. I think the biggest thing for me is we need to let the industry regulate itself. I don't think we need a lot of government oversight. I think bad agents will take themselves out of the pool on their own. And I think that thinning of the herd needs to happen. I think it's crazy to me that we even need to have fair housing, because to me, it's like, that's just normal ethics of business and how you deal with people and stuff.
And I feel like you're going to get like a shitty reputation out there
Yeah.
if you are, so like, I get it. A bunch of people are going to totally light me up and be like, educate me on the past and everything. However, like shitty people really, it cancels itself out. It does. I mean, I've seen it happen time and time again. But here's the thing that I had the hardest time with was when I got my real estate license. Like when I ask agents, why did you get your real estate license? First of all, they never say to recruit a bunch of agents. So I find that interesting. But also they say, because I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people with their number one asset in life. And so I find it very interesting that we have to do it with both hands tied behind our back, and that we have to be like shitheads to our clients and be like, I don't know, look it up yourself. Go figure it out yourself. Well, I don't know. I'm just looking for, is this a safe neighborhood? I'm not allowed to answer that. That's racist.
Yeah.
Like, well, nowhere in there was I asking color, and I think you're actually racist if you're immediately assuming that.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like those type of agents, they're going to weed themselves out anyways. Mm-hmm. I just don't see it as a thing that there needs to be government. And I don't even think that NAR needs to be involved in it. I think it's something that, obviously we already have rules on the books to protect people from discrimination and things like that. And I'm by no means saying that I don't agree with fair housing. I think it's important and I think it's the right way to treat people. But I don't think we need a lot of like regulation. And especially, it seems like depending on which administration is in, it really changes. But like at the end of the day, I think it's just a prime example of creating more laws aren't going to make people follow them.
It's used as gotchas for real estate agents, as it hurts agents who are trying to feel safe. So for instance, we have an app called Forewarn where we'll look up, I get a bad feeling or a bad vibe from somebody, and I look them up in Forewarn, and because I didn't equally look up every fucking other creep or non-creep or woman or man or child or anybody that's ever texted me in the past, because I didn't look up every single other person, now all of a sudden I'm subject to, maybe I violated fair housing. And that's what I have a problem with, is when it's used as a got you against agents in lieu of safety.
Or, where I really have a problem with it is when it's used as there's actually something else that happened within the real estate transaction that one party doesn't like. And so then they find out, oh, well, this could be. And now it's like, okay, so you didn't like the fact that I represented you this way, but I did nothing wrong. You just didn't like it, or you didn't like the outcome. Personally, I had a client who 4 years ago, when the market was just screaming bonkers, got him into a house. He didn't like the way the process went because he had to overpay, he had to compete, and that's just where the market was. Fortunately for him, he understood, like, it's not my fault. I didn't make the market act that way. But he was very unhappy, even though he closed on his home and everything. And, he was happy, but he was very unhappy with the way the process went. And those people are one step away from going, oh, I'm going to find another reason because I can't sue you because I'm unhappy, but I could sue you for a fair housing violation if I could try to find something. And that's where, to me, it's like when we're using it as like this, retaliatory tool, it's like now you've gone to a point where we just don't need that in the industry. And I think a lot of this too falls on brokerages. Don't get me wrong. I think ultimately a lot of this, like, holding agents accountable, it needs to go back to the brokerage level and let brokerages take care of their people and, keep NAR and the federal government out of this issue. Because I think as someone who's in brokerage leadership, if we're teaching our agents correctly, fair housing takes care of itself.
Well, how's NAR supposed to make money then, Josh, if they're not fining the shit out of agents left and right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, but that's a whole problem right now with the industry is we have there's been a lot of organizations that have leached onto the real estate industry and have just started to bleed, each transaction, taking a piece for this, that, and it's all under the guise of consumer safety or, just look what happened in the mortgage industry with the whole truth in lending thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that was good because I think there were a few companies that have gone rogue. But when you start increasing a bunch of fees and everything to protect the consumer, what is your real intention? Are we trying to make more money here? Or are we actually protecting the consumer? Because I would make the argument you shouldn't need truth in lending. If you're a loan officer, you should explain it to your client so they understand what's going on. And if you don't do that, you're just a shitty loan officer.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Yep. Yeah, honestly, I'm enjoying the show of NAR finally being knocked down a peg, of NAR finally being held accountable for, like, basically, for them realizing that they're not, that they aren't immune to everything, right?
Yeah.
Did I believe that they deserved that huge ass lawsuit? No. Did changes need to happen in the real estate industry? Yes. Do I believe that they deserve to be called out by HUD? Absolutely. This one I'm 1,000% behind.
Yeah.
There's right and there's wrong. And I've always felt that was wrong. I've always felt that it was wrong to not be able to help your clients, especially, my military clients that were coming in had no clue about the location or where to live. They only knew what their buddy, who had transferred 10 years ago had told them. And, like, it's just not fair. It's not fair at all. And I should be allowed to help them by providing statistics. And statistics aren't racist.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think, a part of it is in an industry, we need to teach agents a lot better about opinion and fact. Because I think that's a lot of this boils down to, we do a really poor job as an industry of really training agents like, hey, that's your opinion. You can't say that, but you can say facts, especially if you can source where those facts are from. But I think that once again falls on the brokerage, where the brokerage should be the one providing their agents these facts and the places for them, so that when an agent gets that question, they can offer, facts to help their client, but they're protected. But that's another part of this whole thing too. It's like everybody in the real estate industry is trying to insulate from a lawsuit. So they're just passing the buck on of, well, I'm all for staying in your lane. But when you're telling people just to stay in their lane, just so you can avoid any type of liability, that's where I'm like, when you're running a business, you have to take some liability. There's risk involved. You can't mitigate it 100%. And that's really where I feel like NAR has let down everybody because they're so worried now about getting sued, especially after the lawsuit, that they're just like, you know what? We're going to pass it on to the association now. Oh, we're going to pass it on to the MLS. Oh, we're going to pass it on to the brokerage. We don't have an opinion anymore. And that's where I think NAR is really going to get themselves in some hot water because these associations for a long time have just, basically been backed up by NAR. And now that they've lost that, that was NAR's value. And, plus now NAR is getting a lot of competition from some of these third party organizations. And, we have, MLSs that are popping up now that, the whole MRED nationwide thing, like there's a lot of changes happening. And I think ultimately it's great for the consumer. I think it's great for agents because I believe that truly at the end of the day, it's just giving everybody involved in real estate choices. And I think choices are one of the best things that could happen.
I actually have a question about that. So now that NAR trickled back down the liability and accountability back down to local associations, what good is the state association and NAR? Like, do you see eventually those going away? Because the local associations all are independent, like they're small businesses practically, right? And I get that they're gonna like kind of merge. They are kind of merging, right? But what besides RPR, which they'll probably sell, they're probably gonna sell it just like they sold realtor.com. So RPR is a great tool, but what besides RPR does NAR actually provide?
A couple free trainings a year that are required. I mean,
it's not a bitchy question. Somebody please like write me and tell me besides RPR, which I predict NAR will sell for a quick buck, just like they sold us out for realtor.com, just like they sold our information out. Once they sell RPR, what good is NAR? Because they don't back up their local associations anymore. I don't know what they do for their state association, so I can't speak to that. But what good are they to you personally?
Well, and I think part of it too is it's got so fractured because let's face it, you've got NAR at the top and then you have, like I was shocked when we went through that whole thing with the unnamed association in Iowa. I was shocked at how many other smaller associations Iowa had. And it's like, why do we need all these? Why? But like you said, they're all small businesses. They basically found a way to kind of get into the market. And that's where I think we're going to start seeing a lot of consolidations where a lot of these, now that they don't have NAR's backing, you have to be on your toes. These associations now are facing legal fees and legal fights that they're not prepared to take on. And I think that's part of the whole value thing is eventually we're going to see consolidation. And I hope, because here's the thing, I think NAR at the beginning was a great organization. I thought they did good things. I hope this like consolidation kind of brings them back to understanding like, hey, you work for the agent, you need to provide value to the agents. I would love to see NAR, let's face it, they've got a huge budget. Why in the world if you're a member of NAR, you get free CE credits to renew your license every year. You don't have to pay for them. We don't need CE schools. We don't need all these things. NAR has the ability, put up a platform to provide any agent that's part of your association and pays their dues where they can get free CEs to renew their license. Start training your agents, actually providing value. And I think that's how NAR rights the ship. The problem is I don't know if there's anyone in leadership that's willing to, give away their golden parachute to do those things.
Exactly. I don't know about like cutting into their profits or, I don't know their books, but yeah, I don't know who's willing to give up what in order to right the ship. So
tell you what, they got a lot less on the books now that they got to pay out that lawsuit.
Yep, that's right. And I don't think it's going to come out of their books. I think it's going to come out of the American people's books.
Yeah.
The realtors' books. So, All right. Well, I think that that's a good stopping point, actually. Um, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's episode. Excited to have Tim here. And
Oh, you said his name. We hadn't said it until now.
and say the last name.
Oh, okay.
It's a teaser. Now they have to like do a bunch of search. So, all right. Well, do you have anything to close us out with? I don't know. I'm still trying to feel out my closer. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say at this point, if you guys find value in this episode, share it with somebody that you think will. Like, this is a grassroots effort for us. You know, as of right now, we don't have any ads going to this podcast. We're not doing any, we're not monetizing it right now. Not to say we won't in the future, but like, this is a grassroots effort. And we're really doing this because we think the industry needs it. The industry needs an unbiased, unfiltered review of what's actually going on, from some people that really don't care if we piss off somebody in the industry. You know, me and Sandi Lyn are not owned by anybody. So if you guys find value in this, please share the podcast. Throw a story up on Instagram, shoot a link out to some people. We would really appreciate it.
Amen. All right. We're out of here.